back to D&D Beyond, and today I have gathered two of my favorite people to answer the question, Sorcerers, how do they work? If you have never rolled up a sorcerer in D&D, this is the stream for you, or if you would just like to enjoy a discussion of the finer points of what makes them fun, how they work, and how you might want to get started with them, this is the place to be. And to help me talk about that, I have my coworker Micheal Galvis, who would not have forgiven me, I assume, if I did the intro to sorcerers without you.
That's very true. I love my sorcerers.
And one of my favorite people on earth, full disclosure, Gina DeVivo, the phenomenally talented performer, streamer, gamer, and pal. Welcome to the stream, Gina.
Thank you. Pal is by far the best one of those. Hello, I'm so happy to be here. We're going to talk about
So
sorcerers. Michael and I were saying sorcerers was my first ever D&D character I ever made. So also very
is that
special
true?
to me. Yeah.
Wait, okay, so for what's the short version of like how did you when Gina met Sorcerer? Is there a story?
Well, it was obviously I was gonna make a magic character. Any video game I ever played, I played the magic character because that's the fun, and also it's a distance character, so I can be out of danger, just hawking spells.
Gina's good out here. Yeah. Mhm.
I generally pick squishes, so gotta stay out of
Michael, what
danger.
is there an origin story to you and Sorcerers? How did you first fall in love?
I used to play wizards all of the time. I used to love collecting spells, and then just one day it kind of a switch flipped, and I was like, I don't want more spells. I just want fewer spells, but better. So, and then sorcerer. That's what sorcerer's all about. It's just like you have a smaller selection of spells, but you get to do
They're
weird
awesome.
stuff with them. Yeah.
Yeah.
All
Very
right. Well,
flavor.
yeah. I think that the particular the way that you can alter your magic lends itself in incredibly cool ways to like playing as a sorcerer, but we will get into that. So let's talk
Yes.
basics. Let's talk basics for sorcerer. You can find the sorcerer in the basic rules. The sorcerer's origin that you will come with those is the draconic bloodline one. But of course, if you picked up the player's handbook, Xanathar's or Tasha's, you're going to have some more options for the particular flavor of your sorceress magic. Uh, but the key elements for your sorcerer are that it is raw magic, of course. You did not learn this at school. You did not make a bargain for this. It is in you, although there are a million ways it can be in you. And just to live up to my own stereotype, I, of course, love this because this is very much the mutant power version of your magic origin story, with the full range of options of how that can go. Um, you can there's a lot of great guidance in here for sort of choosing the origins of those powers. The quick build advice on them is that you want charisma to be your highest stat, followed by constitution, which I always find interesting. What is it about sorcerers that like should be like why are you proficient in constitution? Why are you kind of tough? Is that related to your innate magic? I'm open to theories.
Hmm.
I think it's just the fact that you have magic coursing through your veins, and sometimes
Yeah.
there's going to be random spurts that you don't get to control. And so, if you're a sorcerer, like you're obviously going to be tough because you've survived like those early years where you're just like accidentally firebolting yourself in the face. Like,
Yeah. And if you go the wild magic path, oh boy, I'm sure a lot's happened to you.
It's very Jack Jack from The Incredibles. Like by the time that kid
Very.
survives toddlerhood, anything can happen.
Just immune to everything.
Okay, so before we dig more into features, I will ask I asked you how you first fell in love with Sorcerer, but what makes Sorcerer fun to play, Gina?
I really like Sorcerer for its like extreme versatility. I build characters first. I build their personalities. I build the way they talk, where they come from, and then I usually fill in the mechanics later. Um, and I see what fits and sort of what spells feel like that. Oh, they totally would have lived that. That's totally how their magic manifests. and so sorcerers are such a great way to customize to the kind of character that you want to build. There's so many meta magic options that sort of alter the way that your magic works. Maybe you don't have to say any verbal components, which is so rad. You never get caught while trying to cast a spell. There's you can It's just there's so much to like, there's so many subclasses within sorcerer, and you can really make it your own. Like, you could have an entire in my opinion, you could have an entire party of sorcerers and not a single person would be the same.
Mm,
Because it's really what you fill in and what you pick, and there's just so much personal lore that is already built in mechanically that you can just be like, "Yep, that's me," and you won't look like anyone else. Which I just is so neat because that the being the character is so fun for me. And when the mechanics facilitate the flavor I want to bring to the table and the kind of energy and the way I want to help the party, um, is just really kind of you can pick anything. And it's just wonderful.
I love that. Michael, what's your answer? What makes them fun? Once you saw the wait, why am I spending all my time with the books as a wizard when I could just have this inside me? What did you discover in play that keeps you going with sorcerer?
I think it's twofold for me. So first off, I just think the concept of sorcerers is really cool. The fact that you're born into this magic or you just come into it. I think for a lot of people, when they think of sorcerer, they think like, oh, it's in my blood. Like my great 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 ancestor was a dragon or something of the sort. But if you actually read the description, there's other ways you could become a sorcerer. Like you could just have a very strange encounter with an otherworldly being, and that causes you to become a sorcerer. You can also have a character who maybe fell into another plane of existence for a while and then was suffused with that magic of that particular plane. And the fact that that is a concept built into the sorcerer, I think introduces a lot of interesting character concepts. And that
Yeah.
was part of what I for my because I play a source I've been playing a sorcerer for I think over 2 years now. And so when I first picked this class, I was like, okay, well, why am I a sorcerer? And I decided that I wanted my character to be the first sorcerer in a long line of just mundane halfling farmers. And so that totally
Oh, you got
informed my
chosen
backstory.
one.
Yeah, he was the chosen one.
Yay, that's so sweet.
And then second, I would say just playing with the meta magic. When you're looking at your meta magic options like twin spell, careful spell, subtle spell, quicken
Quickened.
spell.
Quickened is where it's
Quickened is
at.
so good. I
So
want to take
good.
some time to talk about quickened. Yeah.
Yes, we have to.
Okay,
but
let's
but
dive
once
straight
you're
in
like
because we've
okay.
sorry, Michael,
Oh, but
what's the rest of that recommendation?
yeah, I was just gonna say, like, once you actually go through the quicken or the meta magic options, you start looking at spells in an entirely different way. And you start to see that there's really interesting combinations. For example, like subtle spell with the suggestion spell. It really changes how you play a spellcaster and opens up a lot of new opportunities.
All right, let's dive in right there. Michael, we've mentioned it several times, but for folks who might not have done this before, scrolling here, what is meta magic?
Sure. So at third level as a sorcerer, you unlock the meta magic feature. And or you unlock your meta magic options. I believe at second level, yes, at second level you get font of magic and you start to acquire sorcery points. And so at second level, you're you can only really just convert what are called sorcery points into spell slots, which is a nice way for sorcerers to get like more spell casting in a day. But at third level, that's when you get your meta magic options. And meta magic effectively just modifies your spells in different ways. So the I would say like probably one of the most popular options is quicken spell. So normally when you cast a spell, you typically have to spend your action in order to do so. But with quicken spell, you can spend some sorcery points to cast your spell as a bonus action instead of as an action. And the reason that's so powerful is that first off, if you're just trying to do more damage, you can you spend sorcery points to cast your spell as a bonus action, and then use your action to cast like a cantrip, like Firebolt. Um, on the other hand, you also have with quicken spell, you can cast your spell as bonus action, and then spend your action taking the dodge action, disengaging or interacting with an object. So, in a way, it kind of helps you. It creates opportunities for you to act defensively in combat, but also enables you to deal more damage if you want to, or just stack the spell effects onto your opponents.
So once again, what we see is flexibility. You can
hmm
sort of just enhance the sort of options that you have to play with.
Yeah.
Gina, do you have a fave from Meta Magic?
Oh, I mean, it's weird, but quicken spell or the quickened meta magic is truly. Did you ask for me about a regular spell or meta magic?
Meta Magic. But I will also later on take a
Okay,
fave
great. I
spell.
thought I was
Mhm.
right then. No, just like honestly, quicken spell like for the 4 years that I played a sorcerer, quicken spell was used constantly, constantly because a lot of our encounters weren't always just about damage dealing. There was like a goal, and the things that you needed to deal damage to was the obstacle and not the object
Mm.
of the encounters. So there was a lot of time where it was like, yeah, 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 I need to deal with you, but I really need to get that thing. So having your spell and the damage that you do be sort of secondary to what you need to get accomplished, you have a full action to do, which is just so good. So I'm a big fan. Also, I can't remember at the I'm looking for it. It's not twin spell. It's the one where you can I can't remember it off the top of my head, but it makes all of your spells go twice as far.
Oh
And
yeah, yeah, yeah.
I can't.
It's it's
Is it?
is it one of the distance
It could
spell?
be
Hold on.
distance
Yes.
spell.
Distance
When
spell.
you cast a spell that has a range of 5 feet or greater, you can spend one sorcery point to double the range of the spell. When you cast a spell that has a range of touch, you can spend one sorcery point to make the range 30 feet.
Right. That's that's so think about that. If you have like a healing spell or something that like anything that requires touch, like fly spell or something. Um I used to constantly cast like mass fly on my party so we could just get out of there. Uh and it like can you like that's so good because I could be so far out of range of my opponents where none of their magic could ever touch me, and I just be slinging spells just like haha, too bad, double can't get to me. Because one hit and my character would have been so out of the game, because I built them really squish so that they would be really sometimes your character just needs to be squish. um and it definitely saved my life many times in game of just being able to be slightly out of their range and be able to still send a spell their way.
I love that. So, of course, these are fueled by those sorcery points that Michael was talking about earlier, which is part of your, since I went out of order here, your second level feature of Font of Magic. And here's the table that's your reference for your sorcery points over time. At second level, you have two. Eventually, you'll have 20 and some kind of free refills by the time you get up to level 20. And I believe, Michael, you can trade them for your spell slots and vice versa, should you want to do so. Mhm.
Yeah, I have yet to memorize the table, the conversion table from, you spend this many sorcery points for this spell slot, or like if you
I
spend
had like a
this many
chart.
sorcery points, you get this spell slot
You
back.
don't have to memorize it. That's why we have D&D
Yeah,
Beyond.
Yeah, we have charts.
no, everything must be in here. There's only room for D&D in this brain.
That's
But it's
impressive.
really handy because you can have situations where you've spent all your third level spell slots, for example, and you just have like all of your first level spell slots, but there's a third level spell that you really need to cast. So you can just stand there just burning sorcery points, get that third level spell slot, and then cast whichever spell you absolutely need in that moment. Or
I
vice
love
Man,
versa.
that.
Sometimes you
so
just want more sorcery points.
versatile.
Now, how do you avoid sort of decision paralysis if your sorcerer can do sort of all of these different things at any given time?
That's a
I don't
great
know.
buh.
I'm still
I
searching for
would
that answer.
yeah. Off the top of my head, this happened a lot. Our my GMs are very encouraging about, strategizing while other people's turns are sort of rotating to sort of be like, you know what? I'm gonna scan my spell list and like really be like, you know what? Doesn't work for the situation, but I really want to cast this. Or but not usually. I would say just like as long as you're listening to what's happening, you'll kind of know what's needed. Like,
Mm,
okay, this person's bloodied. I should probably do a spell to make sure that they're down for the count on my turn. Or if they're like really high up and you got your tanks on it, okay, you know what? I need to probably do something else. Or maybe a party member is down. I should heal them or what, it's kind of, I think you kind of just end up, once you're semi familiar with what you can do, you'll get the sort of go tos that you're like, nope, I know I cast my fireball and I do this, and that's kind of my standard in battle. And then as the sort of fight or encounter evolves, you kind of go, yeah, wow, I really think we need to be invisible right now. And you'll just be like, do I have that? Let's see. And you don't have to think too hard. You have it all in front of you. Your character sheet will tell you. You can, with your sheet online, you can just click and it'll tell you exactly what it does and how long it goes for. It's all the information's there for you to kind of keep brushing up because
mm.
Lord knows I did it for 4 years, and there were still some times where I was like, "What do I have? What can I d Let me look at my character, like, what are my creature feats? Like, what are my character, like, things?" I would just forget all the time if I had dark vision. It's like, it's okay to kinda not know and just be like, "Right, what does my sheet say?" Um so you just kind of take it encounter by counter because it's always going to be different, but you're going to get the things that feel like muscle memory where you're just like that I love this spell. This is how I do the most damage and it's so fun and you'll get it.
Yeah. I will
Druids are
say,
much harder.
what?
Druids are much harder
I don't
in my
depends on the druid
opinion.
because I feel like some of them are just like wild shape. Let's go. Um.
Sure, but they still have a million other options.
Okay. Let's see. We've talked. Your basic. You start with 4 cantrips. You pick up spells as you go. Sorcerers are a little more stable with their spells, where you're just going to choose them at set points and have, depending if you use the optional class features in Michael, I want to say Tasha's introduced a little more swappability. But it's
Mhm.
it's when you level up and gain new ones, as opposed to just sort of a I am choosing from the whole realm every morning. Good luck to me. Um.
Yeah, very
But
true. It's handy to just have your spells known and that's it. You don't have to worry at the end of every long rest, like which spell should I take, which spell should I not take. Personally, as a player, I enjoy not having to do that at the start of every morning. I know some people who really do enjoy getting to swap out their spells, but I prefer to be like, I woke up, let's role play, and everyone else can just prep for the day while I just go have fun with my little meta magic spells. Um, so in that way, they're easier. You only have to make that decision whenever you level up. But yeah, as I said before, choosing those spells, I think you have to be very thoughtful about the spells that you do pick and take into account the meta magic that you're picking as well and how they interact with each other.
so let's talk
That's
about that, Michael. How
that's
do you
why I love
approach?
it.
Yeah.
That's why I love it because it's the spells have to be you. And
Hmm.
Mm.
it's not just, oh, what's gonna help? What's gonna help? What's gonna help? What can I do? What might we encounter? Let's go through every spell ever, every day. It's like, no, it's what you got. It's your character. Your spells become your character. And then you get to serve your character beats through your magic. which is so good. You get to have your arcs and your personality and the way that you interact with your fellow campaign members through what you got.
I
It's so
love
good.
that. Michael, let's talk spells. How do you approach choosing spells for your sorcerer?
I start first with deciding which meta magics I think sound the most fun and make the most sense for my character. And even for the campaign, when I made my sorcerer, I knew that it was going to be a social campaign first and then a combat campaign second. We don't have a lot of combat in the campaign. So subtle spell, the subtle spell meta magic just made the most sense. It was the first meta magic I picked because in social encounters, there are going to be times where maybe you want to cast charm person on someone, but you are surrounded by guards and you would get in trouble if you were seen casting that spell. There's also a lot of antics that you can have with subtle spell, with the spell like major image, which only it requires verbal, somatic, and material components, but the material component is fleece. So I just asked my DM like, "Can I have a fleece shirt?" And then I just kind of like pull threads out of it whenever I'm casting a subtle spell. Um, I mean, that's definitely a question you would want to ask with your DM, but if they're open to that, then you could just be sitting at a table pulling fleece out of your jacket while you're subtle casting. So those are the types of questions that I ask myself when I'm going through meta magic. Is like, okay, well, what spells do I think would go well with this? And does that suit my character? Does that suit how I envision this character?
I love that. And Gina, you've given us some insight already into sort of choosing, where thinking of them as obviously expressions of your character's power can kind of help inspire you. But like, is there anything specific? Do you have a fave sorcerer spell or oh, I think you're muted. Can you
Oh,
hear me?
I was muted.
Very spell.
I
Don't use
was
that on
just
us.
saying I know, I'm sorry. I was just saying, that I don't have a favorite because I have like my characters had favorites. It isn't
Mhm.
necessarily my favorite, but it was what my characters like biggest sort of the way that they fought. Like my storm sorcerer, it was like, oh, give me that lightning bolt every time. Um and it was just it was perfect for them, and I think that's like I agree with Michael and like that just the way you build your character sort of really informs what you're going to pick really quickly, um because you start thinking about their history and what they and then the spells really inform you too, because you just kind of it flip-flops so perfectly. And I feel like especially with sorcerer, because there's so much like the spells themselves really can inform who you are or and how you grew up and what kind of struggles you might have encountered because of it. Um, as a, if you were a storm sorcerer like that, what I did, it was like, well, then what kind of life did that person live? How did they become a storm sorcerer? I knew I wanted to play a goblin, and that was it. I was like, I knew I wanted to play a goblin and I wanted them to be full, no horde. They did not have a family. Um, and and I knew I wanted to play a sorcerer. And so my GM and I sat down and we were like, okay, I want them to be I want like a big incident to have happened to them. And and it's we sort of developed this thing where it was like they got struck by lightning and they got inhabited by a tempest, and like the storm tempest became one with them from the lightning joining. And then from that point on they were a storm sorcerer because a literal tempest was sort of stuck in them. um and from then it was like, okay, well, if this goblin has a tempest in them, what sort of spells would that be? What would a tempest give them? And so it was like everything, it was like storm sorcerers perfect. We got to have lightning bolts, like anything that had to do with wind or the weather. I was like instantly gravitated towards. And I think that could work with any subclass of sorcerer. Like once you find out the origin of how you became a sorcerer, whether you were born to it, whether it's because of an ancestral connection, whether you're rejecting that ancestral connection, there are so many ways to flavor what your character wants to be, um, and how it manifests. Because they could hate their spells because it represents the family connection they have, and so using those spells every time is um an emotional moment, whether they are enjoying it or not. And that's just so neat. So the spells for me are second to what it could mean to my character to use them.
I love that, especially because, there's no class in D&D that can't lend itself to some good dramatic emo kind of storytelling,
Absolutely.
but I feel like sorcerers are maybe a little bit overlooked in that department compared to, like, warlocks and some others where we know they bring the drama, but, like, if we're going back to the X-Men analogy I started with, we all know there are so many directions for dramatic storytelling, for your relationship to the things that you can do that make you special. And all of those flavors are open to you if you are choosing this class. Let's talk subclasses briefly. As since it's been brought up a couple of times. um, so of course, Flair's Handbook gives you the options of Draconic Bloodline and Wild Magic. And then I believe, Michael, correct me if I'm wrong, but 3 more came in with Xanathar's and 2 more came in with Tasha's. To sort of
Mhm.
fill out your options for flavoring your sorcerer. Michael, do you want to talk to us a little bit about subclasses for sorcerer?
Yes, I'm so excited to talk subclasses. This class has such fun and unique subclasses. So if we're starting off with, I want to start off with wild magic. The wild magic subclass is a ball of fun and chaos, and I love wild magic so much that I created a homebrew magic item that let my husband roll on the wild magic table. And the very first roll he did on that table was the fireball
No.
option, and he wiped himself out. Um, which is tragic. He survived. His character survived, but the laughter at the table when that happened, the just it was a memory that and my party just carried through the rest of the campaign. It created so much tension every time he used the wild magic table that it became central to the game, where it was just, wait, don't roll it yet. We're in the middle of combat. If something goes wrong, or like we're on a ship, if you get fireball again, you're going to catch the ship on fire. So the wild magic sorcerer, they're built entirely around this chaos magic that is suffused through them, and it's so much fun. There's so many fun effects in here. Some of them are really beneficial, some of them, like the fireball, can be really dangerous for you, and some can just be funny. I mean, I feel like maybe we should roll on
Yeah,
this
let's
table
do
right now.
it.
All
Yes.
right, I'm gonna.
Yes.
All right, here's this.
I
I'm gonna have each of you are having a wild magic surge. So I
Okay.
want each of you to roll a D100. We are all
Yes,
so excited about the wild magic sorcerer that the two of you are going to embody one for just this moment.
this
So
is
I
Amy,
wonderful.
love it.
you go first.
I once got permanently shrunk. I lost several inches from a wild magic table, and it made me so happy. I was like, I gotta go tell my girlfriend that I'm so much shorter now, like in character. It was great.
Michael, who did you say goes first? I was wrestling with my dice.
You first, Amy.
All
You.
right. Um, let's see what we get on a 32. A 32,
Ooh.
Michael.
Mm.
You, Amy, are transported to the astral plane until the end of your next turn. after which time you return to the space you previously occupied or the nearest unoccupied space, if that space is unoccupied. That one's really fun
Whoa.
and can be useful if you're in a tight spot.
I
Because
Yeah.
with
really
the
want to.
wild magic surges, your DM can simply ask you to roll on the table. So if you get surrounded by enemies and you're like, my character is terrified, and your DM can say, all right, suddenly magic just spurts out of you. What happens? And if this is the effect, then it could have very well saved your life. Or it could be really inconvenient if someone's like dying and they're like, please save me. You're like, ah,
You're like, I'm coming.
just fade
Bloop.
to.
Whoop. I wanted to turn my camera off in that moment, but I have no idea what it would do to our poor producer's layout. So pretend I did that gag. An amazing result. An amazing result. Gina.
I rolled a 13.
13.
Yeah,
You
lucky
cast
number 13.
confusion. You cast confusion centered on yourself,
Oh
and
no!
this spell hits every creature in a 10-foot radius sphere. So I hope you're not standing near any of your friends or roommates right now,
Yeah.
because confusion can be pretty brutal based off of the rolls that come after.
Yep.
Now, obviously, there's a
Very
ton of fun to be had with
confused.
these.
Very confused.
If as you grow in power with the sorcerers over time, I think, Michael, 14th level, you will acquire a measure of ability to control this because you'll get to roll twice and choose one of the results. So I love the idea that first you are just well into your adventuring career before you even begin to like have a choice about this stuff. But the circumstances for casting this are that when you once per turn, after you cast a sorcerer spell of first level or higher, the DM can, clearly intentionally chosen optional word here, can have you roll a d20 immediately afterwards. And if you get a 1 on that, then you roll on the wild magic surge. So it's not going to happen with every spell. And later on, you are going to get an ability to refresh this with Tides of Chaos, which is, I believe, uh, what will let your DM just sort of call for this because you can use Tides of Chaos to get advantage on an attack roll, ability check, or saving throw, which incredibly cool, very hex magic. Once you do so, you must finish a long rest before you can use this feature again, unless your DM calls for a wild magic roll in the intervening time before you get it back. In which case, you got to roll on the table. But you can regain your Tides of Chaos. Have I got that's the sort of this is the when it happens of it all.
Mhm.
I love
Yeah,
that.
I
You
think
have to
you got
pay
it.
a cost for getting that luck. I love it.
It's great. And if I
Yeah.
could talk about one more subclass,
Please
because
Yeah.
do.
it's my sorcerer subclass, so I have to throw it in there.
Yeah,
Although
yeah,
I
yeah.
I do think I'm a huge fan of the subclasses that were added in Tasha's Cauldron of Everything. Um, so Divine Soul, which I believe was added in Xanathar's, is when your sorcerer has some sort of connection to the divine. Obviously, it's the Divine Soul. What I love about this subclass is that you can choose to learn spells from the cleric spell list. So,
Mm.
Guiding Bolt, Cure Wounds, your Bless, Revivify. There's a spiritual weapon. There's a lot of really iconic cleric spells that suddenly you can access and toy with as a sorcerer. My favorite combination for my character is to twin cast Guiding Bolt. You're dealing a combined 8d6 damage. You're dealing 4d6 to 2 targets with a first level spell slot and 1 sorcery point. That feels really, really good. And you get to enjoy those sorts of combinations because the cleric spell list is, I think, really powerful. There's a lot of really great spells on there. So when you combine it with the sorcerer's meta magic, you're getting some really fun combinations that let you do things that no one else can do.
Yeah.
I love
That's
that.
neat. Divine Soul. What a good one.
One of this is another that sort of will arbitrarily let you fly a certain way into your development, which I love. Just the number of things where it's like, and also at a certain point you can fly.
Yeah.
That's just a One of my favorite things that crop up in D&D, like, what's your excuse for flying? And when did you get here? Um, and of course, Gina, you talked a little bit about being a storm sorcerer, which is another, I think, of the
Yeah.
Xanathar's subclasses.
Yes, 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 yes. It is beautiful. It fit perfectly. It was perfect. It was perfect. Basically, it's like if you there's just there's just so much. Like one of my favorite features essentially. It's called Heart of the Storm. Um Essentially you can
I
like
can
disengage if you get hit. um there's so much oh, there it is. Wait, oh, there it is. Heart of the Storm. At level 6 you gain resistance to lightning and thunder damage, which again, great. I was up flying constantly getting hit by storm lightning. um Constantly, and sometimes I would bring friends up with me and they were not resistant. It was bad. But okay, so the eruption, the creature's choice. You could. Okay, so here we go. So this eruption causes creatures of your choice that you can see within 10 feet of you to take lightning or thunder damage. So every time you hit someone and if they're close to you, you just get to deal an extra, just a little extra lightning at them. It saved us so many times when you have a creature that just their turn's coming up and they have like 5 hit points left and you just, dang it, your spell didn't quite do it. And then you just get to go, a little extra, and
And
it
I think you were
saved us.
referencing the tempestuous magic
The
ability to sort of
tempestuous
fly yourself
magic.
out of the way of
Yes,
stuff.
you can fly out of things. So if you're in danger, it's a free disengage. It's just, oh nope, I'm away from you now, and I can run. No
Love
opportunity
that.
attack. My body goes whoop and flies me out of danger. Um, which is so neat. You get to flavor that as, okay, what's protecting you? Is it your magic, or is the magic like, whoa, gotta move this meat body? It's not. It's endangering this magic, whew, and just pushes you out of the way.
I love
Great.
that.
There's so
So
many good things.
we have just a couple of minutes left. So let's talk. We talked about the sort of archetypical sorcerer is dealing with this power that's inside them. You could feel a number of ways about it. There is some great guidance for adding to and flavoring your sorcerer in each of in the player's handbook, in Xanathar's and in Tasha's. I think Xanathar introduces some optional things. You could have a mark that distinguishes your sorcerer. There's some more ways to flavor your origin in there. Like there's all kinds of inspiration. But if we've talked about an archetypical sorcerer, what's like a weirdo version of a sorcerer that you think might be fun? Gina.
Oh, okay. Well, I've always been interested in a Clockwork Soul subclass. Because they're I because sorcerers to me always feel so charismatic and lots of social roles because their charisma is so high and like everything's. I tend to play more chaotic characters. I lean chaotic good. Usually with characters, and Clockwork Soul is so about order and no rerolls, and like it's really sort of focused on almost like a tinkerer to me, like someone who's very everything is in order and everything is this. So what would happen if a Clockwork Soul sorcerer was like incredibly ADHD like me? We're just like they're just trying to get everything in order and they have to like keep notes for themselves constantly because they're like, no, I no, it needs to be perfect and the math needs to be great, but I'm terrible at math. I love taking what is exactly what you're supposed to be and then being like, well, how do I make them not as good at that?
Well, I love that the
Because
idea that this
I
is not
love
someone who's questing for order, not somebody who's
questing
sort
for
of already
order.
full of it. I love that. That's great.
Exactly. I love building a lot of struggles into my character arc so that I have arc. I have places to go. I have things to learn that are sort of within myself and not always party arcs. Um and if you're starting sort of like, I don't know how to, that's why wild magic is also so fun to play with because it's, where do I go? I don't know, that I haven't harnessed, I haven't controlled this yet. I don't quite know how it works, and that struggle can sort of just be there, even if you know the spells, even if your character knows how to do everything correctly, you get to RP how that works. And so I think that would be fun, just like a really chaotic clockwork soul sorcerer who is
Love
just
that.
so bad at keeping everything together, just a mess.
Just notes on notes on notes. I love
Notes
that
on note,
so
just like a
much.
full clock tower full of post-its and like what button does what, you know? I think that would be pretty
Michael,
funny.
what's a weirdo or an out of the box sorcerer concept you might encourage someone to try?
I had this character that I wanted to try out last year that I never got the chance to, and it's an aberrant mind sorcerer, and their backstory is that their family had some sort of mysterious encounter with some otherworldly being, and develop magic in that way, but their magic has caused their family to become outcasts. And so this particular character has decided to adventure to seek out the origins, the truth behind their family's sorcerer connection, or the reason that there are sorcerers in their bloodline. And they what they find out, their journeys take them deep into the oceans, and they their ship crashes in a really bad storm and they drown. And they have this vision with this mysterious entity at the depths, at the bottom of the ocean, and form a pact with the very creature that gave their family sorcerer magic. And so they would be a warlock multi-class with the fathomless patron, and then and then the adventure would kind of just stem from that, like what why did they form this connection with the fathomless in order to live, and because they want to better understand their family's connection to this creature and to understand the motives of this creature, find out, is it truly evil, or is it the fact that society has outcast us that has made me think all these years that the fathomless truly is evil? Or are they, or are the people right? Are is the magic that we have coming from a really dangerous, chaotic place? And what does that mean for me as an individual?
I
Incredible!
love
Now,
that.
both of you picked, I love subclasses, the two new ones that were introduced with Tasha's Cauldron of Everything. And for those of you watching, you may already be aware that we are still working to sort of fully implement all those features of those in D&D Beyond. So we appreciate your patience. But you can read all about them and what they can do in the D&D Beyond if you have those sources unlocked. And I hope that people will roll up, maybe if you've never dabbled in it, that this has given you some inducement to flirt with the possibilities of the sorcerer class. And before I let you go, where can people find you, Michael?
You can find me here on D&D Beyond, and also on Twitter at Michael Galvis.
And Gina, where can people find you? And maybe a certain upcoming total puppet chaos?
Maybe. You can find me online at Pocket Gina. I'm usually everywhere on that, on Twitch, on Twitter. Um, and yeah, over on the Pixel Circus channel coming up, I'm going to be running a puppet RPG, Total Puppet Chaos, or TPK for short. This will be our second season. It's only 3 episodes, so if you want to catch up on what happened in the first go, essentially, this is my version of the gods pantheon who got turned into felt buddies. So it's the story of these very beautiful and powerful gods, unfortunately, sort of being nerfed down to puppet, and them trying to figure out why and how to become gods again. And there's sort of shenanigans along the way on Earth. And we have a second season, and the beautiful, talented, incredible Abrian Iyengar is joining. So it's going to be very exciting.
Gina runs the game and also made the puppets, FYI, because she has
I
every
did.
talent.
I did. I
And
made the
they're
puppets.
incredible. And finally, last question, important one from chat. Gina, do you have a favorite dinosaur?
Oh, I'm really partial to a triceratops. I know there's I've heard that there's a possibility that they don't exist and they're called something else and it's just a baby. I've heard rumors. There's dinosaur rumors amongst the amongst the sphere, but I love a good triceratops. They're just
Heck yeah.
lovely.
Thank you so much for joining me. Thank you all for watching. And we will see you next time on D&D Beyond.
It's D&D.